Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host,
Brett
Gilliland.
Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland. I've got Bill Blankschaen with me. Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Brett. So glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, it's good to have you. And you're down in beautiful Orlando, Florida area.
I am enjoying sunshine like every day down here, but you're in a beautiful part of the country too. So my experience, every place has its own story. Every place has its own advantage. Every place has its own unique goodness to it that just got to find the right fit.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, you are the founder and chief story architect of StoryBuilders, which is a creative team of storytellers who share his passion for helping people live a story worth telling and serving them with excellence and genuine high-trust relationships. So you can't beat that. I love that. Got a lot more stuff here, but I always like to start with, Bill, is what's helped make you the man you are today?
What's helped make me the man I am today?
Yeah.
I'll go with several things. First of all, my faith. My faith is really at the core of everything that I do. My faith in God drives that. And I think maybe even partly because of that, I just my fascination with story. From a young age, I was so fascinated with story and storytelling. I was the nerdy kid who read the breakfast cereal box 5 times while I was eating, right? I was always, well, what's on here? I'll read the ingredients too, whatever. And I was the kid who was hanging out at the library on the weekends reading Shakespeare, right? Because I was like, stories are cool. I want more stories. Yeah. So I think a lot of that has shaped who I am and my passion for stories, for storytelling, and for helping people see that each of us has a story. We're each living a story, and that story matters in a significant way. And it can be leveraged strategically to help other people if we're willing to embrace it and develop it and lean into it.
Yeah. So you got a new book I know coming out. It's called Your Story Advantage. And so what I wanted to dive in today is talk about that. Talk about we'll talk about the book later, but talk about the power of your story and how do you find out what your story is, right? Because maybe I'm the man or woman driving down the road right now, and I don't know what my story is. Where do I start?
Yeah. Well, let me share a little bit about my own story. I think that'll be a good example of that. Perfect. When there was a time when I ran a private school. I actually helped start a private school and then ran it for many years. And I was doing good work. I was helping kids. I was helping families. It was rewarding in its own way, and yet I kind of felt like I was leaving something on the table. I'd always thought of myself as a writer, but I wasn't writing. I always thought of myself as a storyteller, but I wasn't telling stories. And so there came a point where I knew I didn't want to live to regret that someday and wake up and realize, I guess I didn't do anything with that. So there came a point when I let go of that, stepped out of that into the unknown to pursue this. And I never worked harder in my life, quite honestly, Brett. It was, I was technically unemployed and working longer hours than I ever worked, studying storytelling and books and publishing world and talking to all the publishers and crafting book proposals and figuring out the science and art of storytelling. And, I remember one day in particular that, you might relate to these moments when, I was sitting in the backyard, pen and paper in hand, trying to write. And it was we were in Ohio at the time, beautiful spring day, and the sun was shining and the birds were chirping. On the outside, everything was great. But on the inside, I was just totally wrestling with fears of, is this going to work? Did I make a mistake? Is anybody ever going to listen to anything I have to say? And it really, really reached that point of like, but I have to keep moving forward. So I kept writing. And as it turns out, the very book I was working on at that moment got picked up by a publisher. And I realized, I'm actually really good at this. And other people wanted more help with it. So I started doing that for other people. And out of that came StoryBuilders. And all of that to say, I really believe that in my experience, this was true, but in others as well, that your breakthrough begins when you start with your story, when you're willing to lean into who you are at the core and then tell that well to the rest of the world. And I've kind of framed it as the story multiplier formula. That is, who you are gets multiplied by how well you tell your story. And then that determines a lot of your income, your impact, and your influence as a result.
Yeah. And I think it's the story you tell yourself, right? I mean, that's where you're going there, because it starts with ourselves. If I'm sitting here and having all this negative self-talk and all this, my story, it's going to be a bad movie, right? It's not going to be a great movie.
Totally. The first person you have to tell your story to is you, right? If you don't believe your story has value, nobody else is going to believe it has value.
Yeah.
And you're right, Brett. A lot of us, we pick up a lot of, I don't know, like a lot of propaganda, if you will, along the way from other people, well-meaning people sometimes. And we provide a lot of it ourselves. And so, we have to get clear on that. We have to see the advantage that our story gives us, even if it's not always a pretty story. Yeah. Right. Some of the greatest advantages come from our greatest failures and being vulnerable in that way.
Yeah. And what is that process like for you? Because I know for me, I've got my journal I go to, and that's been a game changer for me over the last 20 years. But what is it for you if you did get bad news or you're working through something difficult? How do you get through it personally to get to the other side?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can pull up a lot of detailed or specific things in life, things that haven't gone. I mean, that was a good example of, when we stepped out of that setting, stepped away from a school, a safe, secure job, and into the unknown. We went a year. It was a struggle. There was the one Christmas that all we could afford for our kids was a box of cereal and their favorite 12-pack of soda. That's it. That's what they got.
Merry Christmas.
And that was
kids.
A stretch. Yeah, that was it. They still look back and say it was one of their favorite Christmases. So, there's some gift giving tips for everybody. But I think when you're going through that, I have found, first of all, I think it was Davy Crockett actually who said something like this. He said, be sure you're right and then go ahead. Right. So get clear on your direction and know that yes, this is the path I'm going to go. This is the way I need to go. This is the way I'm called to go. And then keep moving forward. I've so found that often we fail simply because we quit. We just drop out, we walk away, whatever the challenge might be, we just give up on it. And so often when we keep moving forward, our perspective changes, right? As long as we're moving, our perspective changes and we begin to see things we didn't see before. Or I like to say our motion or our momentum, our being in motion determines our devotion to what we really believe to be true, right? So when we meet in a hard time, we're not sure where to go. Often, yes, I think we need to do that. Things like journaling and stepping back and thinking and getting advice and counsel and all that. But above all, still moving forward. Wherever we have clarity, keep moving forward. And that's what really fuels so much of our story. Yeah.
It's, and you talk about your team, what does that look like? How do you quote unquote sell? Cause there's storytelling, there's story selling. Sure. How do you work with that for your team to get your culture and for everybody to live the culture? What is that like for you?
Yeah. In the book, I talk about what I call the storytelling structure, which is a 5-part framework for sharing any message in a story wrapper, if you will. How do you put this in a story and connect it with your story and connect it with what people want? And I think whether you're the storytelling, story selling, the biggest thing people have to understand is that it's not about them. It's about the people you're trying to connect with. It's about the people you're leading, the people you're trying to sell a service or product to, whatever the case may be. That, I like to say your story is about you, but your story isn't for you. And so you have to learn to share the experiences that you've gained, the challenges, all that. This isn't a therapy session, where it's not just, let me just dump everything on you and I'll feel better. The point is, do you feel better? Are you helped by how I'm going about sharing it? So that's what I mean by strategically sharing something in a systematic way that I walk through with the storytelling structure. We use it with our team. We use it with our story partners we work with. We use it everywhere. But it really is about intentionally being strategic and flipping the script of it's not about me, it's about them, and starting there.
Yeah. So you can see on my microphone here, this is the F greater than P. So our mission or our story, if you will, is helping people achieve a future greater than their past. And, I wear hats with it. My journal that I have right here is achieving a future greater than your past. When you hear that, what comes to mind for you, number one, but then number two, how do we share that story, right? And whatever the companies that are listening to this right now, their mission, how do you sell that story out to the masses to serve and help others achieve a future greater than your past?
Sure. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is you, first of all, in order to do that, you have to come to terms with your past. Like you have to be willing to take a hard look at your past and acknowledge what's happened in the past, your wins, your failures, your struggles, all that kind of stuff, in order to then decide what future you want and what's that story going to look like in the future. And I think that's tremendously valuable to self-assess your own story, figure out what that is, and then go from there. And what the other thing that came to mind when you said that was really, I call it getting clear on your brand story. Like, what is the story that you're telling? So many founders, so many entrepreneurs, so many organizations I talk to, they tell their story as an insider, right? Someone who knows the story, they are familiar with it, they know the shortcuts, and they tell it, again, from their perspective in a way that doesn't really resonate with the people they want to connect with. And so it has to be strategically told from that perspective. And that's why, we take the storytelling structure and we add a few components on the front end to create the brand story edition, where it's a 7-part process where you can go through that process as an organization, as a leader, and get clear on your message for the audience that you're trying to reach. And once you do that, then you can communicate it effectively to everybody, right? So many times leaders and organizations struggle to replicate the wheel. Feels like they're reinventing the wheel. How do I say this? How do I say this? How do I say this? And every time it's a little bit different. But when you get that story told well, that's from the customer's perspective or the audience's perspective, that resonates with them, then everyone's it's copy, paste, tweak, copy, paste, tweak. It creates it removes that friction from the process, that people know what to expect, and that builds trust in that process too.
Yeah. Talk about your faith. You mentioned it earlier, but how's your faith and your, obviously I understand the faith on the personal side, but the faith in your work life, how does that come out to you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really make a distinction between the two. Like, life is life,
right?
And often in work, I mean, we're dealing with people, and when you're dealing with people, I side with what C.S. Lewis said, that we've never encountered a mere mortal, right? We're all eternal beings in some way. So, there's always a deeper significance to everybody that I encounter. And in our faith, like we like to talk about, we are a Christian company. And I tell people, you don't have to share the details of our beliefs to enjoy the benefits of those beliefs, right? You don't have to share the details of our faith to enjoy the benefits of our beliefs. And because it drives our values, it drives who we are. Like, our core values come from that. And even our passion for stories. What personally drives me is I love stories because I feel like the ultimate storyteller, God, is telling a story, and we get to participate in it and with our own stories, right? And so each little piece is coming together as part of this greater mosaic, if you will. And that's where I believe it really is a call to stewardship. It's a call to be a steward of our stories. And each of us has however long we get here to create a story that leaves the world a better place than when we got it. And so it integrates with everything we do. Everything we talk about as a team, how we approach things. It's always to, again, make the world a better place, because we want every story to matter.
Yeah. It's funny. So one of our values in our organization is faith, and we talk about that. And, we have God on our website and in a big frame when you're walking back towards my office. And it's amazing how people they will stop and point that out, or stop and read that and what it means to people. But we've also had somebody renamed nameless that said, hey, I think that, for me to work there at this company, it was a pretty big advisory. He's like, I don't think I want that to be part of the culture. And I think you guys should maybe not have it on your website. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe we're not the right space for you. So, it obviously didn't come work here, but I think you got to stay grounded in that. And whatever companies you're doing personally, professionally, financially, emotionally, intellectually, all those things, it goes back to your faith and what drives you to make the right decisions, right?
Yeah. Well, it does drive decisions. I've worked with people, pretty well-known people, to write books and collaborated on those projects and so forth. But there have been people who have been sent my way who are big names, big budgets, all that kind of stuff. And even in the first interaction that I had with them, I could see, all right, we're not in alignment on some key issues of faith and values and so forth. So I'm not even going to entertain the idea. I'm just going to politely tell you that. And because alignment is key with any project. If you're not in alignment, you're going to have friction. You're going to have disconnect. It's not going to work. It's not, to me, it's not even a question of what do you believe? Do I agree with it? It's a question of, are we in alignment? Because if you're not, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to work with somebody who doesn't share your message? You need somebody who is passionate about your message that you're doing, the story that you're telling, and sharing it in that way. And that's the kind of partners I think we have to align with to get done what we are called to do.
What's the thing in your brain right now it's taking up a lot of bandwidth of just thinking, right? Whether that's something that's maybe bothering you, something that's exciting, like where is that bandwidth and what are you consuming right now in your brain and what are you doing to make it happen?
It's just a lot of cool stuff that we're doing that's taking up a lot of the bandwidth, right? Growth oriented things, right? So we're getting a lot more into the most of our business up to this point over the first 11 plus years now has been referral based, and people very pleased with what we do, sending people our way, right? That we want that, but we're also getting into more digital marketing space and being able to sell more digital products for those for whom that's a better fit, but also in a way that invites people to work with us personally as well, right? So we're doing more in that space. So anytime you're getting into a newer space, we've done a lot of that for other people. And so a lot of what we're doing this year has been doing what we do for others for ourselves, right? Again, the book coming out in October, we create books all the time. The courses we put together, we create courses all the time, but just doing it for ourselves, getting our brand upgraded to the next level, right? So it's the classic case of, the physician helping other people and not taking care of themselves, but we've decided we're not going to do that. We're going to apply it to ourselves.
Yeah, it's good. And take your own medicine, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we've been blessed with such a great team, just a phenomenal team. And just, so focused on, just working to find more people that we can help make their stories better and upgrade them and help them build either a brand or business or whatever the case may be to really put that further out there.
What are the habits, rituals, if I followed you around for a couple of days that I would see, kind of without fail, these things are happening in your life?
What first comes to mind is morning routine. Morning routine seldom varies, if ever. Maybe I'm traveling or something, it'll adjust a little bit, but it begins with an early morning wake up. And, from a health perspective, I don't know how detailed you want to go, right? But I'll do a little electrolyte water right in the morning, get your electrolytes going, get some water in the body. Then some coffee.
May I interrupt during this? So I use LMNT or Element. Is that similar?
Same thing. That's what I use. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. So getting that going, because health is a huge priority for me as well, right? So getting that going, and then some quiet space. It's just me. I try to get with open up the Bible for my faith, right? And try to read some passages and think about that, then do some journaling. I borrowed a page from Dan Sullivan's book where he records your 3 wins from yesterday, your 3 wins for tomorrow or today. I do it in the morning, and it just helps set the kind of gratitude expectations, things I'm grateful for, things I'm looking forward to. And then just kind of always trying to create some stillness and some silence in the day then, and just pausing and just asking key questions of God, of, what do you want for me to do today? What do you want me to hear? And just kind of being in the stillness and letting thoughts percolate to the top, and what's on my heart and mind, and giving that some room to breathe. From there, it's off to physical fitness of some sort, right? I'm a runner, so I'm preparing for a marathon and half marathon coming up and all that. So often doing some running or strength training or some component there. Yeah. And then breakfast, and then getting into the office and getting to work. And that gets a lot of my morning routine underway. I will share this. This is one habit I'm struggling with, to be candid with you. I'm working on really putting away my phone like in the evening so I can be fully present with my family. Yep. Sometimes I pull it off. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I forget. Right. But just trying to be that intentional and not be tied to that device during those times when it's better for me to be fully present with people.
Yep. It's great. Talk about AI. Are you using AI to your advantage at all in your life?
I am. Well, largely in the business, right? Of StoryBuilders. We're using it a lot. We're using it. We're trying to leverage it for what it's really good for. And that is eliminating a lot of routine. Right. It's because we're in a very creative space. And so sometimes we meet people who are like, oh, I'm just going to write my entire book using AI or whatever. And so we have to do some education around that. Like if you're trying to do brand defining storytelling, AI is not your answer. It's going to be, you're not going to have a brand defining anything. It's just simply not going to be a fit. But what is valuable is AI is a time saver. And that's where I think it just shaves so much off of that. We're only just beginning to understand some of the possibilities with AI. But we're actually have a full focus. We just talked about this yesterday in the quarter coming up, a full focus of actually creating tools that we're using internally for content creation, again, to eliminate the routine and free people to be more creative. Yeah. Right. We want to eliminate the, for lack of better words, flipping the burgers of creating a book. Right. Somebody else, and we can get a machine to flip a burger potentially. How do we then make an incredible sandwich experience, right? From that, yeah. So we can focus on being super creative with what we're doing. So doing a lot in that regard. Haven't incorporated a lot of it into personal life beyond that, just because we've been so focused in that direction. But it's certainly something I'm wanting to explore more, and something that's not going away anytime soon. No,
it's not. One of the things that I've done recently within the last couple of weeks, and I was messing with ChatGPT and I wanted to see if it would do this, and it does, and it's phenomenal. I think you may like this, or maybe our listeners will. So I basically prompted it to say, hey, every morning at 7 a.m., send me a notification that it's ready and it's ready for delivery. And I want you to send me a Bible verses, and kind of basically give me a little motivational type talk around being a great husband, a great father, and a great leader, all through these Bible verses. So it's awesome. Every morning at 7 a.m., it reminds me, right? Boom, here it is. Yeah. I open it up. There's the Bible verses. Here's what it says. And it just, starts the day off right, and obviously I can go to the Bible and do that myself, but it's been pretty cool to just have these here, because I don't know exactly the Bible well enough to look to say, okay, where can I find something about how to work, teach your children or lead your children, right? Or lead your family, lead your company. And so it's really cool. It's been bringing that to me. So just some food for thought there.
Absolutely. No, I think it's a great example of how to use it well, use it strategically. A lot of the power of AI comes in the prompts. Of what you're asking. It'll give you what you ask it, right?
That's right.
And so you have to ask strategically in order to do that well. And I think as long as it doesn't become a crutch, like you said, use AI for that purpose. As long as it doesn't become AI, whatever AI says about the Bible must be true. Right. Just common sense, I think, is what really we need to do in this kind of thing. And I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, it worries me as well. I mean, you look at the AI and then these robots and all this stuff. It's like, man alive, what are we going to be doing in 5 years? So I'm just hopeful that we remain steady and keep the good stuff going on. So tell our listeners more. Go ahead.
Well, I just remember, I don't remember, but having studied history, you can go back 50, 100 years, and people were saying the same things about a lot of technology that came out of, this is going to change everything. It's going to be horrible, it's going to be great, or whatever, right? All these statements. And somehow, it all works out, and it never proves to be quite what they said it was, but it does change things, right? So it's things are different, and we have to adjust and learn. That's called life, I think, right?
It is called life. That is very, very true. Tell our listeners a little bit about your book that's coming out in October, Your Story Advantage.
Yeah, well, Your Story Advantage, it really is designed to help people see the value of their story, figure out how can I put a proven structure, proven process, the storytelling structure into play to tell it well, really to tell anything well. It helps you, anything that you're trying to message, it'll give you that clear structure. But then breaks down what I call the story ecosystem. And that is, you think of it as getting clear on your brand story when you're trying to build your personal brand or your business. What is that brand story? I call it the message maker. And then what is the message multiplier? I call that a book. And often putting something in the form of a book is such a powerful tool for a brand or a business being grown. And then from that, building out other IP related developments. How can I monetize it into memberships, courses, workshops, coaching programs, all sorts of things that are out there in terms of the way they should go. And I think ultimately helping people understand that there's tremendous power in collaboration, right? So that their story is powerful and collaborating with others is powerful. I like to say, if you want to elevate, you have to collaborate. And so getting that mindset in place that then can move you to the next level. So the book is really designed to kind of pull back the curtain, see exactly how I've done multiple New York Times, USA Today best-selling books, working with people from Lewis Howes, Dean Graziosi, John Maxwell, Kevin Harrington, a bunch of other big names, and a whole lot of people, frankly, more motivated by a whole lot of people who maybe you haven't heard of yet, but they have a significant story and they're having the impact in their corner of the world and they're growing in that impact as well.
Yeah, love it. So our listeners, where can they find it or buy it?
Find the book at yourstoryadvantage.com. They can also get it at any of the retailers, wherever they want to go as well. But yourstoryadvantage.com, because we got a whole bunch of bonuses there that are totally free if you go there, and you can claim your bonuses and just equip people with all kinds of resources to help them fully take advantage of the book and be able to move forward and tell their stories well.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Bill, so much for being on the Circuit of Success. It's been awesome. We will put all this in the show notes here, yourstoryadvantage.com. And that's the name of the book, Your Story Advantage. So check out the book. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, glad to be with you. If anybody wants to reach out to talk further, even to talk about morning routines or anything with storytelling, they can get us, they can schedule a call with us actually at mystorybuilders.com/story, mystorybuilders.com/story. And if we can serve them, we'd be happy to. So,
awesome.
Brett,
We'll
thank
put that
you.
in there as
Appreciate
well.
it.
Thank you.